Environmental studies. An abiotic factor is a non-living part of an ecosystem that shapes its environment. In a terrestrial ecosystem, examples could include temperature, light, and water, while in a marine ecosystem, abiotic factors would include salinity and the ocean currents. Abiotic and biotic factors work together to create a unique system. While climate is what we expect, weather is what we get. Weather is the day-to-day state of the atmosphere and its short-term variations in minutes to weeks. People generally think of weather as the combination of temperature, humidity, precipitation, cloudiness, visibility, and wind. Climate is the weather of a place averaged over a period of time, often a few decades. The important climatic factors of a region are rainfall, atmospheric humidity, wind, temperature, and light. Of these climatic factors, each one individually contributes to the general and overall effect of the climate by influencing the life processes of plants, which constitute the vegetation. Visible light commonly refers to the electromagnetic radiation that can be detected by the human eye. The entire electromagnetic spectrum is extremely broad, ranging from low-energy radio waves to high-energy gamma rays. Light also affects divergent aspects of animal life. The growth, coloration of plumage or body, migration, reproduction, and diapause are affected by light in various insects, birds, fish, reptiles, and mammals. Many animals prefer to remain in the dark, while others, like hydroids, fail to survive in the absence of light. Nocturnality is an animal behavior characterized by being active during the night and sleeping during the day. Diurnal animals, including squirrels and songbirds, are active during the daytime. The ability to change one's skin color is extremely useful. Some species use dynamic changes in pigmentation to signal to potential mates or rivals. Others use it to camouflage themselves to fit in with their surroundings and avoid predators. Color changes can also assist in body temperature regulation by allowing for greater or lesser amounts of heat absorption as required. This last function is especially important in ectotherms, organisms that rely exclusively on their external sources of heat to maintain optimal body temperature. Darker pigmentation has a lower reflectance, which allows the animal to absorb more heat from the sun. Conversely, lighter skin has a higher reflectance, which can reduce the amount of heat gained. As such, some ectotherms have shown to change color throughout the day, visibly darkening to assist in the morning basking and lightening as temperature increases and the need to absorb the heat starts to decline as the day goes on. Light is the driving force for many processes. One such process is photosynthesis, the plant process that changes sunlight into chemical energy. A general rule of thumb is that 1% more light will give you a similar percentage increase in plant growth, resulting in a 1% higher yield. All plants require light and carbon dioxide for photosynthesis. But there is another thing that light can do. Phototropism is one way a plant can maximize its exposure to sunlight. And because plants need sunlight to make food, this is an important survival tactic. Roots have a tendency to be negative phototrophic, growing away from the source of light, while shoots are positive phototropic, growing towards the source of light. An important physical factor in an organism's environment is temperature. organisms respond to changes in environmental temperature in different ways. Only about 40% of the available energy in an organic nutrient is used for ATP production in the cells of living things. Most of the remaining 60% is emitted as heat, which in all plants and most animals is quickly lost to the environment. The body temperatures of these organisms are influenced by the environmental temperature. When the environmental temperature rises, the body temperatures tend to rise, and when the environmental temperature falls, their body temperatures tend to fall. For this reason, animals have adapted to survive in both very high temperatures and very low temperatures. For example, a camel's hump aren't for storing water. There is fat deposits there to help them go without food for extended periods of time. And in the case of mammals without hair, insulation is accomplished through blubber, a thick layer of fat tissue which helps to insulate the animal's body because fat does not transfer heat as well as muscles and skin does. Plants and animals also need to adapt according to the amount of water available. For example, hydrophytes are plants which are adapted to live in conditions where water is abundant, either at the surface, submerged in, or at the edge of bodies of water. In the case of plants, many of them won't have a waxy cuticle. They will have a reduced structure, have wide flat leaves, small roots, and air sacs to help them float. But not only do they need to be adapted for very high amounts of water, we also get the times of a year when rainfall is available. South Africa is among a handful of countries that experience winter rainfall in some areas and summer rainfall in others. The southern tip The southwestern tip of the country has a Mediterranean climate with hot, dry summers and cool, wet winters. This is because mid-latitude cyclones migrate further north during the winter, allowing the edge of the cold front arm to sweep across the southernmost parts of the country. The interior is dry and cold in winter, with subsiding air from strong high-pressure systems. In summer, this high pressure moves south, causing the dry conditions in the Western Cape and allowing convection storms in the interior. What is unclear is where exactly the boundary between the winter and summer rainfall zones exists. There is consensus that Cape Town is in the winter rainfall zone and Johannesburg is in the summer rainfall zone. But these cities are separated by 1,400 kilometers in distance. What about the zones in between? Well, as it turns out, not even climate scientists are sure. In areas that is very, very dry, we find plants such as xerophytes. Xerophytes are plants which are adapted to environments with very little water availability. This can be plants that live both in hot and cold deserts. Some ways they use to conserve water is having a thick waxy cuticle, sunken stomata, having less stomata, less leaves, or having hair on their leaves. Most of them, however, are succulents, which actually stores water. Giving a plentiful supply in times of drought. Earth's atmosphere also plays an important role in the regulation of plant growth, in the process of oxygen being released and carbon dioxide being trapped during photosynthesis. Edaphic factors include the physical, chemical and biological properties of soil that result from biological and geological phenomena and other activities. If you look in a soil pit or in a roadside cut, you will see various layers in the soil. These layers are called soil horizons. The arrangement of these horizons in soil is known as the soil profile. and pedologists observe and describe soil profiles and soil horizons to classify and interpret the soils. Sandy soil consists of small particles of weathered rock. They are one of the poorest types of soil for growing plants because it has a very low nutrient content and poor water holding capacity, which makes it hard for the plant's roots to absorb the water. This type of soil is very good for drainage systems. Sandy soil is usually formed by the breakdown or fragmentation of rocks like granite, limestone, and quartz. Silt is a little bit smaller than sand but bigger than clay. It is made up of rock and other mineral particles which are smaller. It is the smooth and quite fine quality of the soil that holds the water better than sand. Silt is easily transported by moving currents and is mainly found near rivers, lakes, and water bodies. Clay is the smallest particles amongst the types of soil. The particles are tightly packed together with each other with a with a little airspace. Soil has very good water storage qualities, and it makes it hard for the moisture in the air to penetrate it. It is very sticky to the touch, but wet but smooth when dried. Lastly, we have humus, which is the dark organic material that forms in soil when plants and animal matter decay. Humus contains many useful nutrients for healthy soil, and one of the most important of these is nitrogen. Did you know that some species of hydrangea flowers are natural pH indicators? The colors of the flowers changes depending on the relative acidity of the soil in which they are planted. In an acid soil with a pH below 7, the flowers will usually be blue. However, in an alkaline soil with a pH above 7, the flowers will be more pink. The physiographic factors of a habitat include the form, behavior, and structure of the Earth's surface, which consists of erosion of land, silting up of rivers and lakes, accumulation of sand and shingle along the sea coasts, etc. Aspect refers to the position of an area in relation to the sun or wind or wave action. It is the direction that the slope faces, like northeast, south, or west. In South Africa, rainfall is more common on the southeastern slope, therefore these tend to be forested or rich in vegetation. The slopes facing the other way, northwest, tends to be drier. The direction of the slope plays an important role in determining the rainfall and hence on the characteristics of the vegetation of the area. The mountain chains steers wind into definite directions, capturing moisture from the wind on certain sides and condense aqueous vapors in the form of clouds and rains in the higher regions. Thus, on certain sides, rich vegetation is found, while on the other side of the mountain, with lesser higher vegetation and more xerophytic vegetation. Earth's atmosphere consists of a variety of layers: the exosphere, thermosphere, mesosphere, stratosphere, and troposphere. The exosphere is the upper limit of our atmosphere and contains mainly oxygen and hydrogen atoms. And these will escape from our atmosphere right into space. The thermosphere is right above the mesosphere. The aurora and satellites occur in this layer. The temperature increase is caused by the absorption of energetic ultraviolet and X-ray radiation from the sun. The mesosphere is just above the stratosphere. Meteors burn up in this layer. The stratosphere starts just above the troposphere. The ozone layer, which absorbs and scatters the solar ultraviolet radiation, is in this layer. By absorbing dangerous UV radiation, the ozone in the stratosphere protects us from skin cancer and other health damage. But most of our life actually occurs in the troposphere. Altitude, like elevation, is the distance above sea level. Areas are often considered high altitude if they reach at least 2,400 meters into the atmosphere. The most high altitude point on Earth is Mount Everest in the Himalayan mountain ranges on the border of Nepal and the Chinese region of Tibet. Altitude is related to air pressure. In fact, aviators and mountaineers can measure their altitude by measuring the air pressure around them. This air pressure and oxygen change also causes a variety of problems in climbers. As the altitude rises, air pressure drops. In other words, the air pressure is much lower the higher up you go. The effect of altitude is best visible in the mountains. With the increase of altitude, the temperature and atmospheric pressure will decrease. But wind velocity, relative humidity, and light intensity will increase. These changing climatic conditions also bring about changes in the patterns of vegetation of the region. Starting from the base of the hills, the vegetation pattern changes from tropical to temperate, taiga, tundra, and even polar. These community types are called different kinds of biomes. And so we have discussed the three basic abiotic factors that can influence biotic components. We looked at climate, the edaphic component, and the physiographic components for environments. If you would like to know more about environmental studies, then share and subscribe and ring that little bell and tell your friends about it. Watch these videos that I have already made on the biomes of South Africa, as well as the different ecosystems within each of those biomes.